All right, traders, welcome to our Sunday weekly outlook. I hope you guys are all having a great weekend so far. Hope you all had a great weekend. Hope you're ready for a good week. But let's go ahead and jump into our weekly outlook. Let's go ahead and just jump right into things, guys. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the chat. Keep in mind just a regular disclaimer that everything that is said, everything that you hear on this live stream is just for informational and educational purposes only. Nothing on here is for financial or investment advice, okay? These are just going to be my opinions and what I think could happen this week. So I definitely recommend having something to take some notes with, definitely. See lots of love in the chat, lots of people saying stuff in the chat. So hello, guys. Good to see everybody. Hope you guys all had a good weekend. But yeah, anyways, just to kind of set some expectations. So you'll see on my screen, hopefully you guys, let me know in the chat too how the sound is. Let me know how the video is. Let me make sure you guys can see everything, hear everything okay. Looks like you guys are good in the chat. But there's a couple pairs that I have marked off. You'll see that I have a couple pairs marked off in red. I have one marked off in purple. I have two marked off in orange. I'm going to talk about all of these pairs, but pretty much these pairs I have some interest in, and so you'll have my opinions on a couple of these pairs. What's good, guys? I see a lot of people in the chat. If there's any pairs you guys have any interest in also, I'm here to give you guys value, right? I'm here to, be here every single Sunday for you guys and give you guys the most amount of value that I can for you. So if there's any specific questions that you want me to, or any specific pairs that you want me to look at, is not one of these ones that I have marked off, go ahead and put that in the chat, okay? But to kick it off, as usual, I want to just start off with the economic calendar for the week, just so you guys kind of know a couple of the things that are going on. And I just want to just backtrack a second. I would just want to ask, you guys how you guys all did last week. I want to make sure you guys all made it out alive last week. Nicholas, you said you want me to check out NZD USD. Rike said USD JPY and Euro USD. Please, I know we were following them last week. Can you explain the movement over the channels? Absolutely. We'll go over those pairs, guys. I have them noted down. But just a real quick, this is actually last week. If you're looking at the screen right now, this is just a quick recap of last week. Tons and tons and tons of news last week. Markets were extremely volatile. Markets moved a lot. So I hope you guys either at least capitalized a little bit, at least made it out alive last week. Those of you guys that might follow me on different social media channels, I hope you guys had a good week last week as well. But I'm really happy to say, I don't want to talk too much about myself, but I do just want to say that, give you guys an update where I'm at personally. I had the biggest week of the year and the biggest winning single trade of the year last week. I took a trade on Euro Yen and made a little bit over 7% on one trade. Made a little bit over $10,000, almost $11,000 personally. So last week was a really great week. I'm sure you guys saw if you followed my social media channels, specifically like Instagram. But yeah, and if you don't follow me on Instagram and you want to, the social media link is in the description. But yeah, guys, last week was a great week. Me and my students made a ton of money. I had so many people messaging me last week about people making money, all sorts of students making money. Just a really good week. And it's overall it's been a fairly slow. Let me go ahead and just close that. It's been a pretty slow, slower than usual, I would say, year. That last trade that made me that 7% was actually only my 16th trade for the year, but it still has me on track for my goal. But yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about myself. But if you do want to see more about that, that is in the MyFX book as well. So the MyFX book link is also in the description as well. You can go check that out, but it's really cool. You'll see that the last trade just completely spiked up, made higher highs on my MyFX book. So yeah, it was a really, really nice trade last week. So I hope you guys had a good week as well. Simon says last week was hectic. Nicholas says you're bullish on NZD USD. Okay, we'll look at those pairs, guys. But anyways, this week is definitely a lot lighter. Okay, so if we look at this week, there's definitely some red folder, some high impact news. One of the things that I want to touch or just like mention, one of the things that I'm really focused on is on Thursday. So for my time, Thursday morning, there's going to be some GDP coming out for the US dollar. So I'm pretty interested to see how that comes out. But yeah, there's just a lot of news this week. If you are someone that is trading the New Zealand dollar this week, on Tuesday, there's an interest rate decision for the New Zealand dollar. As usual, there's going to be a rate statement released with that as well. And then Wednesday, we're going to see Mario Draghi speaking. There's also another Brexit vote. Once again, Miss May is going to see if she can get her vote through. So Friday, we're going to see another vote. So I'll tell you guys right now before we get into things, I am not interested in touching any pound pairs right now. But I will tell you guys, everybody that's on here right now, you are definitely going to get a ton of value because I'm going to tell you specifically what pairs I am interested in trading. But yeah, so let's just jump right into things, guys. Okay. So first things first, okay, that I want to touch at, and I'm just going to start off with the biggest value just right off the bat, and that is AUD USD right here. Why is it not on, okay, technical difficulty, I don't know why. Okay, it just disappeared on here for a second. Don't know what's going on with that, but okay. Is AUD USD, okay? So Australian dollar versus the US dollar, Aussie dollar. What's up, guys? By the way, I see lots of people in the chat. Luke, let's smash this week. Absolutely. Joseph said, what's up, David? Hope all is well. Just want to say thanks for your great mentorship when it comes to my trading. No problem, Joseph. Thanks for being here, guys. You know, I am here every week for you guys. It's up to you guys to be here. But yeah, I appreciate each and every single one of you guys. If you guys, you know, are here watching this right now, live or recorded, make sure you smash that like button, please. Definitely. But anyways, here is the number one trade that is, I think, the best for at least short terms, like the next like 24 to 48 hours in the charts is Aussie dollar. Okay, so this is the daily chart for Aussie dollar. We're seeing some strong reversal patterns on the daily. Also, I mean, going down to lower time frames as well, you can see actually very strong reversal pattern here on the 4-hour as well. But I would expect some short-term downside on Aussie dollar, okay? So, yep, I'd be expecting some downside. If you're targeting some downside, it's probably going to break this support level that we have right here. So that's going to be right around where my cursor is, which is like 0.7070. Okay, so that's like where this major daily support level is. You can see last week we had a couple days where we got above the 50 EMA, but closed below the 50 EMA. I know you guys probably saw how crazy last week was. Really strong exhaustion candle on the weekly on Aussie dollar. Okay, right back down to the lows, right back down to this level of support, and I think it's going to continue going. Okay. So look for it to continue moving below this major level, okay, this major support level, and watch it continue moving lower. But yeah, that's going to be Aussie dollar, okay? I do want to just recap also Euro Yen. So this is the trade that I took last week, guys. Me and all of my students also took this trade. This is an alert that I put in the inside for my students, inside of the private Telegram. Now, let me say this. This should not be a surprise. Taking a profit or capitalizing last week on this pair, for me, it should not be a surprise to any of you guys that have been following along with the weekly outlooks consistently, because there's been 3 pairs that I've been watching on a really consistent basis for the past, I'd say like month to 2 months now at least. And that's Euro Yen, which is the pair that I capitalized on right here that we're going to take a look at. And then AUD CAD and AUD NZD. Okay, these 3 pairs, we've been watching them. I've analyzed them before in depth on the past weekly outlooks, and I personally have been patiently waiting, kind of just like just waiting for a really good like sniper type setup. Okay, so I got that last week. We got a pretty nice reversal pattern around the highs. If you're a student, on the daily webinar, we talked about this spring that happened back here on the 20th last week. So right now it's March 24th as of this live recording right now, this live stream. So back on the 20th, which was last week, we had a little bit of a spring, which was a reversal pattern. We entered shortly after at the highs up here. This is the 4-hour chart of Euro Yen. I had a 55 pip stop loss and a 200 pip take profit. And this pair honestly moved. I'm sure if you guys also traded euro pairs last week, so this goes for like euro USD as well, a couple other pairs. But euro yen, this pair moved a lot faster than I thought it was going to. I mean, I told all of my students when we took this trade, you guys knew that I was expecting to hold this trade over the weekend. I didn't mind holding it over the weekend also because it had the trade at the time had a positive swap for a short position, which is what I was. But I pleasantly woke up on Friday morning to my take profit hit. So yeah, this is actually the biggest single individual trade this year for me, but also not this year, but also my biggest single win in like the past 6 months single-handedly too. So it might not look like a lot, 200 pips, but when the risk to reward is 3.64, when you have that calculated out like that, and I use 2% risk like I did, I made a little bit over 7%. So that's really good for me, right? Making over 7% on a single trade, that's a pretty big deal, at least for me personally. So nice win for me and my students. Last week was just a really, really good week. But yeah, anyways, just wanted to kind of recap that, and then also just kind of add some value with moving forward this week on Euro Yen. So if you were a student of mine, you guys were on my daily webinars when we took this trade last week. I'll also tell you, obviously, if you are not a student, one of my personal students and like on my daily webinars, and you're just following along with the weekly outlooks, just to kind of so you know where I am moving forward. I had said at the time of placing that trade that our target, this original 200 pip take profit, was just a conservative target, and you guys should know that even if you're just a free member and just on these weekly outlooks for free. You guys know that I've gone in depth with Euro Yen, and it's gone a little bit crazy, right? The original setup that we were looking for kind of got invalidated because you might remember this goes all the way back to like this time last month. So like February 20th, like the early February 20th, 21st of last month, when I first kind of was originally expecting some downside on Euro Yen. We didn't get the initial setup that we were looking for, right? And I know, sorry if you're watching this right now, you can't really see me draw. You just kind of have to see my cursor. But the yellow box that's on the right that you can see here that my cursor is over, this is kind of what I was expecting, similar price action to the yellow box to the left. So you can see it got a lot more complicated, got somewhat invalidated, but overall, and it actually kind of like went to the sidelines. Even if you were on last week's weekly outlook, right? I still covered Euro Yen, but it was just more of like being on the sidelines. But again, right? It's trading for me personally, and not even just for me, just for being a successful trader. I think many of you guys in here that are successful traders on your own, you'll know that capitalizing and winning trades and being a profitable trader, a lot of it has to do with the timing, right? So there were some opportunities in the past, right? You can actually see back in here, late February, early March, we were at some highs, and then we produced some downside movement. So there was some opportunity back in there. I personally didn't capitalize on that move back in early March. This is the only move that I capitalized on, but yeah. Anyways, but just to add some a bit of substance to, instead of just, I'm not just trying to sit here and brag on a trade, but I just want to give you guys kind of some substance moving forward. I would expect Euro Yen to probably continue to see some downside. I'm expecting some weakness on the Euro across the board. Even the long-term vision, right? If you've been on these weekly outlooks, you've been following the Euro Yen outlook, right? You know that this long-term outlook on Euro Yen has been short. Like I'm still it hitting this take profit last week and making that 7% is just a small win in terms of the potential, the possibilities on the downside. So I'm definitely gonna look for more downside on euro yen. So the reason why I have it marked in purple is if you're one of my students, you'll know that I mark off current trades that I'm in purple. So I'm no longer in the trade, so I'm gonna mark it off to red. But yeah, I'm still definitely have interest in this trade. Okay. But AUD USD is probably going to be on the shorter time frame as far as like I know a lot of you guys on here probably like to trade based off of like the 1 hour, the 30 minute, or like the lower time frames, which I'm not like the biggest fan of, but just to give you some sort of value if you do trade those lower time frames, I would say very short term AUD USD should continue to find some downside, and we already talked about that, right? And it should continue to find some more downside. I'm expecting the dollar to continue its bull run that it started to move last week. And just to briefly just diverge a little bit, go to the top of my list here and look at the dollar index. So you can see this is the weekly chart of the dollar index. Really nice bounce off of the 50 EMA zone. Really nice bounce off of the lows last week. Really strong bullish momentum at the end of last week for the dollar index. You can actually see where Wednesday's candle and Thursday's candle is here. You can actually see Thursday's candle like retraced almost 100% of Wednesday's drop. So really strong bounce, really strong demand for the dollar in that area. So I'm going to expect this bounce to continue. That also means for Euro USD, okay, so this is some more immediate value as well. So this is why I have it marked off in red, because I think that this is some immediate value short term. So at least next like 24 to 48 hours, could potentially last all week. Who knows? We just kind of have to, kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. But at least short term, I would expect Euro USD to continue moving lower as well. So even on the 1 hour here, you can actually see it's got a nice little bit of a bear flag going on the 1 hour. You can see the 50 EMA on the 1 hour is pulling down. We're nicely below. This is the daily pivot points, but also the weekly pivot points right here. So Euro USD and AUD, like this is what I would write down. Okay, so I always recommend all of you guys to it depends on how you want to do it. If you want to have a trading journal that you write something down on, that's fine. If you want to have, be, really technical and have some sort of like Excel spreadsheet that you update on a regular basis, that's really nice too. But if you want to keep it simple but really effective, get a whiteboard, guys. Okay, just get a whiteboard, and when you're on these webinars, just write down on a whiteboard. It doesn't even have to be a big one too. If it's just like a little personal one, little tiny one, you just write down next to you. At least you kind of have an idea. Again, these are my ideas too, just my opinions, but hopefully let this be a handicap to you guys, because the reason I do these is because you guys message me, right? I wouldn't do these if I didn't get feedback from you guys. So I'm constantly getting like positive feedback and messages from you guys of how grateful you guys are for these messages. So I really appreciate it, and I do this. I also do this for myself too. I do this to give back, but also so I have a good idea to look at as well. So I have some time to look at the markets as well. But anyways, the whole gist of me saying that is because if you do have that whiteboard, if you do have whatever you're writing down this short term or I think a whiteboard is good too, because if it's just temporary, right, it's not, you don't have to waste a bunch of paper or anything like that. So whiteboard's good, but I would say for short term at least, Euro USD downside might retrace a little bit. It might head up towards like the weekly pivot point or the daily pivot point. Hopefully, if you're on your cell phone, it's probably going to be hard to see. If you're on your desktop, it shouldn't be too difficult to see right here where the 50 EMA is. You can actually see there's this, around where my cursor is right now is a pretty significant level, okay? Because we've got the 50 EMA coming to the downside right now. We've got the daily pivot point. We've got the weekly pivot point, which is what both of those magenta lines are right there. And then we've got this descending trend line, which obviously doesn't look like anything on these lower time frames. But on the weekly, you can see it's been a pretty significant level. You can actually see. So that's actually something that I wanted to talk about on Euro USD. Okay, so if you remember, actually, This is at the beginning. Let me just double check. Okay, 21st. Let me just double check calendar wise. 20th, 18th, 17th. Okay, that wouldn't have been last week. Okay, I'm just going to pop open the calendar real quick. Okay, that would have been the 17th. That's right. Okay. So here, let me just do this quick little recap on Euro USD, okay? Because if you guys remember, Euro USD just did like a huge finesse, huge manipulation on the market. Um, I hope a lot of you guys didn't lose any money on Euro USD last week, because it was, I mean, a lot of the market, not just Euro USD, but a lot of the markets were volatile. I hope you guys made some money on this, but I was personally patient, even though I had the original outlook, which we're going to talk about in a second. So Euro USD, if you remember, beginning of last week, we were looking at this descending channel. And yeah, actually, Rike, you actually wanted me to cover Euro USD, so this is perfect. You wanted me to cover the channels on Euro USD. So this is the 4-hour channel. This is the 4-hour chart on Euro USD, and you can see the descending channel. If you guys remember, at the beginning of last week, we were towards these highs. We were actually at the top of this channel, and then we saw just a huge spike on Euro USD, and then it's obviously dropped since then. A lot of that was relative or indicative of the news, okay? Because we had the interest rate decision that came out on Wednesday that was initially pretty negative for the dollar, and that's what made Euro USD rally. Um, and then there wasn't a whole lot directly afterwards that made um, the dollar stronger. But what we did start to, or what we did see was on Friday. Okay, Friday early morning, there was a bunch of PMI news for a bunch of the Eurozone. Okay, so for France and Germany and different parts of the Eurozone, was a lot worse than expected, and that sent Euro USD back to the channel into the downside. So, I mean, that's obviously like the fundamental drivers, but from the technical standpoint, you can see just a really big stop hunt, right? There's going to be a lot of sellers that entered the market early back on like the 19th. Either whether they did have a stop loss or they didn't have a stop loss. That wasn't a good scenario right there for sellers if you sold too early. Luckily, we weren't. Me personally, me and my students, we weren't in the markets. Even on Monday's daily webinar with me and my students, we talked about the possibility of, at the time, uh, it being a possibility for price to move this high, and then also at that time was to break this potential high, which this clearly makes a lot of sense. Okay, this break to this specific level on Euro USD. If you're asking yourself why did Euro USD go up to this specific level and then drop, well, that's a simple answer, because you can see as there's been shorts happening, since you can see like the highs at the like early January right here, as this bigger price action on this chart continues to make lower highs. This is where we're going to see a lot of stop losses at, okay? So like we aren't talking like anybody that's shorted recently, but we're talking like people that shorted maybe at the highs back in February, okay? Because there's going to be a large majority of people that have, okay? So people that have shorted back in, January 9th of these highs. There's people that shorted back at the end of January at this lower high. There's people that shorted at the end of February at this next lower high. In gradually as price makes its way down, this is more so institutions and commercial traders, people that are holding these longer term positions. I mean, not to say that retail traders don't hold long-term positions, but we're just talking like the average, right? You look at like your average commercial trader, average institutional trader versus your average retail trader. The latter is, the retail trader is usually going to work on like the lower time frame. So we're talking about like this higher time frame trading. Point of what I'm trying to say is that there's going to be a lot of people that have stop losses above this area. Okay, so they're going to be like trailing their profits all the way down as price moves, but then they're going to have stop losses above this area. Not only that too, but just like the original people that got in at like the end of February, they might have their stop losses at break even, or even just people that just got into shorts back on March 19th, maybe long-term swing traders expecting like long-term lows. And then they have their stop losses just above the previous lower high. Okay, so there's lots of reasons, but a lot of logic, in my opinion, as to why price went to that specific level. But moving forward, I'm expecting the U.S. dollar to continue to rally higher. Okay, and also with that being said, from a technical standpoint too, sorry to bore you guys, not to spend too much time just on Euro USD, but the weekly candle is extremely bearish on Euro USD as well. Okay, very strong. If you guys can't see that bullet, that screaming bearish momentum on Euro USD, well, it's right there. Okay. So, and just the fact too that on the daily we're back inside this channel. The fact that we're back inside this channel, and also the fact that we're back below 1300, which is pretty crazy too. Because if you guys remember, 1300 has been a very significant level, not just like recently either. Like this has been a significant level like back from October of last year. Okay, I mean technically this even goes back to like August of 2015. Didn't quite get to 1300 in August, but like this zone. But anyways, yeah, the most logical level, path of least resistance is to the downside. That's Euro USD and AUD USD. Okay, so that's what I think the most amount of value is. Guys, if you've made it this far in the video, please definitely smash that like button. I definitely appreciate it. Let me see what we have in the chat. Nick, you wanted me to look at NZD USD. Okay. So NZD USD, similar scenario. NZD USD tends to follow Aussie dollar. So I would probably expect sellers to be pretty present in the market on New Zealand dollar. Now, I will point out this on NZD USD from a 1 hour like lower time frame. There is this current support, but it is a little bit of a bear flag. But look for this support level to break, and then it should continue lower. So that's some short term analysis on NZD USD. Let's see. So that was Euro USD, and then dollar yen. So dollar yen, guys. Dollar yen, just because Rike, you asked in the chat me to kind of look at dollar yen in the channel. So dollar yen did break the bottom of its channel last week. You can obviously see the ascending channel that it's been in for a while, and now it's making some downside. And this is expected. I mean, I obviously took a sell on Euro Yen. So if you are a student of mine, you guys will know that last week when I took this trade, at the specific time I took the trade on Euro Yen, I was also expecting strength on just the Japanese yen in general. So that means weakness on pairs like dollar yen and pound yen and pairs that end with yen. And you'll actually notice that if you see, let me watch, if I clear out the drawings on everything, you'll actually notice all those pairs, pound yen, dollar yen, AUD yen, so Aussie dollar yen and Euro yen. All the charts look a little bit different, but the more recent price action, like the daily, you can see has been like pretty explosive to the downside. And for dollar yen, I don't have a lot of like a ton of explanation, to be quite honest, because from a fundamental standpoint, it should be going higher, which would make sense because like we're seeing something like Euro USD falling really hard right now, and we're seeing the dollar index rally. But at the same time, like I said like 2 minutes ago, is that I also, one of the reasons why I sold Euro Yen was also I was buying into safe haven strength. So I was expecting things like gold and Japanese yen to strengthen. So seeing dollar yen fall just means that the Japanese yen was stronger than the US dollar, which makes a lot of sense. In this, ultimately, as much as I hate to see it, as because I didn't capitalize on this downside, it's like already like almost 200 pips lower from the highs. I've been expecting this. If you've been on the weekly outlooks, if you are a student of mine, you guys will know we've been expecting this retracement, and literally at these highs last week, we even talked about this double top. You can see it very clearly on the daily right here. We had this double top just at the highs. So this is a very significant level. So seeing it kind of break this zone that I just extended right here, you can also see it on the 4 hour right here. Seeing it break this area and then falling lower makes a lot of sense. And like I said, to be quite honest, I think the pairs that end with yen, like euro yen, dollar yen, even pound yen, in AUD JPY, so Aussie dollar yen, I think these all have good downside opportunity as well this week. Okay, so these are other pairs as well. I mean, Aussie dollar looks like it's going to be weak as well. So Aussie yen, even though I don't have it marked off here, I think there's a lot of value with the downside with Aussie yen as well. I think Aussie yen is going to continue to move lower this week. I think um, dollar yen is going to continue to move lower this week. I think pound yen is going to continue to move lower this week. The one thing that my eyes are looking at, just so you have an idea um, of of price action on pound yen, is the double top at 148. Okay, so if you see on pound yen right here, this is the daily chart, and I don't want you guys to forget this because I think sometimes people forget how simplicity, or how well simplicity works. They say like over analysis causes paralysis, and I think that's so true with trading. Over analysis causes paralysis. I think sometimes people get too caught up on and I'm not necessarily saying indicators are bad or this and that is bad, but I'm just saying, just making a point that I think some people get too caught up in the complexity of trading and just like overcomplicating things, and they don't like just look at the simplicity sometimes. And to be quite honest, like euro yen is a perfect example of simplicity. Like, I'm not going to get too into it because I'm not here to like talk about like the past, because obviously it's not of any value because you can't capitalize on it. But in short, I just saw some very basic reversal patterns, some very, very basic reversal patterns on like the 4 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour time frame. On top of seeing some things, on top of having like an overall short bias for a while on euro yen for a while now, that led me to take a trade. So don't forget about the simplicity. But basically, what I'm just talking about with that is on the daily here, you can see a very strong um, double top up here at 148 on pound yen. Right here, we are getting back to the previous lower high, or I'm sorry, higher low that was made. So the higher low is where my cursor is, back on like March 11th. That's the beginning of not last week, but the week before last, and then the end of the week prior to that. And then we're also getting we're sitting on top of the 50 EMA right now. But I would be expecting some medium term, so over like the next week or so, downside on pound yen as well as downside this week. Okay, so those are more pairs to capitalize on. So there's seriously so much to capitalize on, guys. Like, I'm not like every single week. Let me just be super clear. Like, not to like have a whole rant about profits or anything like that, but guys, like, not every single week, in my opinion, is meant to be like some great trading week where you're making all types of profits. As much as I would love it to be, right? Everybody would love it to be like that, but at the end of the day, it's just not that way. So last week was a really good trading week. I even told you guys at the beginning of last week. Last week was a really good week to capitalize. This week, similar scenario, right? There's not as much news this week to create that volatility, to create those catalysts. Although I still think that the markets are still going to move really well, but definitely have these pairs written on your whiteboard. So Euro USD and AUD USD for shorts, and then also like really any of these pairs that end with yen. So pound yen, dollar yen, AUD yen, euro yen. I think all of these look like great short-term downside. Um, Oil, okay, oil looks a little bit weird. You'll see that for some reason. I don't know. You can see that the feed is coming from Oanda on my chart. For some reason, Oanda is reporting it really weird. But if you look at the daily on oil, you'll see that, watch, I'm pretty much just going to have to just do something like this, okay? Pretty much ignore, oh, here's what I'll do. I know what I'll do. So go like this. I'll click replay, and I'll go right here. Boom. We'll click 1 speed. Boom. Okay. So that way, so pretty much we're missing like the current open daily candle, but it really hasn't moved a whole lot. Okay. But you can see oil just from a daily perspective. This is the daily candles. You can see just like these 3 daily candles is making a bit of a reversal pattern. Obviously, we're at some highs. So it makes sense that in this major correction that we've been in since the end of December, so this entire year that we've been in a correction on oil, it makes sense that we're going to see some exhaustion on the way up, right? That we're going to make a little bit of correction before moving higher. We are getting that 50 EMA on the daily on oil is starting to point up higher and higher. So this is definitely helping. Obviously, right? That's just like basic, right? I mean, like you could have like a elementary school, primary school student, teach them and tell them to recognize that if the line is pointing up, then we're in an uptrend. So I'm not trying to sound that basic, but it really is, that simple. That as the steeper this line gets, the more vertical, the less horizontal this line gets, the more vertical this gets, then the more momentum this is going to have. So we want this to continue moving up higher. But in terms of the only reason I'm talking about that with oil, or the only reason I'm talking about oil is because I just want to talk about CAD pairs. So if you're trading any pairs where CAD is the second currency, okay, so where CAD is the base current or the quote currency, okay, so like USD CAD, NZD CAD, AUD CAD, Euro CAD, Pound CAD, like any of these 5 pairs that I have. This is my opinion on the Canadian dollar for this week, or this is my pair for any of those types of pairs. I would expect upside this week on these pairs, okay, which means weakness on the Canadian dollar, okay? I see a little bit of a top on oil. Obviously, ignore that big drop because it's not a drop. It's just like a glitch right now. But you can see, all jokes aside, all glitches aside, we are making a little bit of a top on oil. So I think that we could see a little bit of weakness on the Canadian dollar. And all in that, specifically with USD CAD, that paired with USD strength, because we're seeing the US dollar index bounce right now. Remember back to the beginning of this webinar on the weekly, right? That big exhaustion candle. So USD CAD, we could see some upside. Man, that weekly candle too, that weekly candle on USD CAD is just like so bullish too right now for USD CAD. It's just like bullish engulfing on USD CAD, just like right back up to the highs. We're starting the week off at the monthly and weekly highs. Okay, so that's not good. Okay, I mean it's not bad, but you know what I mean. It's actually the yearly highs too. It's not just the weekly highs; it's the yearly highs. It just means that USD CAD. The only reason why I would even say that it's bad is because as much as I would love to sell, because if you guys have been following along for a while, you guys know that I've been like scalping sells on USD CAD, right? I've taken a couple shorts in the past. I took the short back here on like January 25th and shorted. I took a short sometime back in here on like February 15th for some short-term downside. So I think maybe even a third time in here. So I've been scalping the downside on USD CAD, but unfortunately, and I even mentioned this on last week's weekly outlook, that we got this really complex triple bottom, weird like inverted head and shoulders on USD CAD. That's like this complex move that it's nothing new, right? It's been forming for a couple of weeks now. For actually a couple of months now, it's been forming since like January when we started this weird complex formation. So no surprise there. It's just, and this is definitely one of those situations where I think you really have to set your ego aside. I mean, you have to set your ego aside when you trade, but you have to set your emotions as a human aside, because as easy as it is to be like, oh, I want to short USD CAD because oil looks so bullish, you have to not marry your bias, because if you marry your bias and you like let you attach your emotions, because you're basically, not to get like too deep into it and diverge too much away from it, but basically the point is that you might have this false sense of confidence because you won. Like for example, because you won so many trades in the past. Because for USD CAD, for example, right, I might have this false confidence because I've been looking to get short long term. Like I want USD CAD to fall really far, right? I want USD CAD to fall like thousands of pips all the way down to like the 120s where my cursor is. And I called this original top up here, right? So you kind of get so the first boost of confidence is where like in my situation, for example, is where I call this top, right? Because if you've been here, you've been following the weekly outlooks, you've been here since the end of December, so basically the end of 2018. I called this high on USD CAD. Okay, before we even started to fall, when we were at these highs, I said this is probably going to be the high for USD CAD. We were probably going to see downside. Okay, so I saw downside. So that's kind of where I got this like that initial like boost of confidence. And then we saw this consolidation for a while. And then back on here on January 25th, I took a short, perfectly patient, almost like this euro yen trade, right? Where I was patient for a really long time, caught the top perfectly, and then USD CAD just dropped perfectly and like made a nice profitable trade. So then, boom, I got this other like boost of confidence basically. And then more recently, it was like this was actually like in February at some point. I took a short on USD CAD in one on that trade. So the point that I'm trying to make is that by now I have like this big confidence on USD CAD that shorts are like good, right? Because I called the top, I got two nice short trades. So that's one thing, and this is like being really real, guys. Like I really don't want you guys to ignore this or think that what I'm saying isn't valuable, because this is like some of the most valuable stuff right here, because this is like the core of trading is like your psychology. So you want to make sure that when you have some trades that you do really well on, that you don't let it like affect your future trading. So the gist of what I'm trying to say is because I've basically made some money and like called the shorts perfectly, I shouldn't get married to taking shorts on USD CAD, because if you look at pretty much the daily and the weekly time frame, which are really like the two main time frames that I use to distinguish like a trade that I might take on a like a intra-week basis, like a normal trade, mostly like the weekly and then dropping down to the daily. Both of these time frames are screaming buying for USD CAD. And so that's the point of what I'm trying to make, is that I have to recognize that as much as I've done well taking shorts on USD CAD and called the top perfectly and want to be long-term short on USD CAD, it's clearly looks like a buy right now. Okay. So, and that's one of the reasons why I have it marked off also, because that just leads me into saying that if you're looking for some short-term trades, USD CAD looks like it's a good opportunity for some upside this week as well. Okay. AUD CAD, I have this marked off in orange because again, this is actually one of those, this goes back to one of those three pairs, Euro Yen, AUD CAD, and AUD NZD. One of these, this is one of the three pairs that I've been following for a couple of months now. Just kind of been waiting for the right moment to act on this pair. I've been very open with you guys. I've been waiting to get a short on AUD CAD. And there's been some opportunities. I actually took a trade on AUD CAD back on whatever day this is. So back on February 20th, I took a short on AUD CAD and it went into profit, and then it ended up closing at break even. So even though you can see it's where the stop loss, it's at the stop loss of the trade idea. It never hit my stop loss. I got stopped out at break even. But yeah, so I've attempted a short, which I mean, I would say it didn't work out, but I mean, it didn't. I mean, it didn't work out, but it not like I lost any money is what I'm trying to say, because it was break even. But yeah, just kind of been patient, been waiting, kind of similar to with Euro Yen, just was waiting for a similar setup to happen, kind of like this yellow box to the left here, was kind of expecting a similar price action in this right yellow box to happen. Obviously, it's looking a lot more complex, a lot different, so it's slowly becoming invalidated, and that's why it's just kind of on the back burner right now. But yeah, and especially too, again, going back to the Canadian dollar, right? Especially seeing that top kind of looking on oil, and then also seeing how bullish USD CAD looks. The Canadian dollar isn't looking too great right now. So AUD CAD, I might expect some upside. But at the same time, too, with AUD USD CAD, just to kind of ramble a little bit, the Australian dollar also isn't looking pretty weak. So I think at this point, it's kind of the battle of the weaker coin to see what's going to happen, or I guess the battle of the stronger coin. And then NZD, AUD, NZD. So I'm kind of kicking myself in the foot for not taking this trade. I hope there's some of you guys in the chat or in the that are watching this right now that have at least capitalized on this based on my outlook, because we've literally been looking at this pair for over a month now. I'm not going to go into all of the details because I have gone into the details multiple times with this trade, but it should be pretty clear cut to most of you guys that can see pretty strong price action. But this pair originally became a pair of interest like almost a month ago, a little bit more than a month ago, like February 22nd, February 21st. I remember back when these daily candles were happening right here. Maybe it was even a little bit before that, but it was at least to that date. I was expecting downside on AUD NZD, and we talked about from like a commercial trader's perspective, from big money, which is obviously the direction that we want to be trading with. That's who we want to be trading with, is smart money, because that's the direction of big money. We talked about the advantages to the downside of being short, of big money being short, because of this pair paying a positive swap and it just being in such a strong downtrend. And yeah, it's just moved to the downside a little bit faster than I thought it was going to, because it's actually been pretty consolidated for a while, but it's starting to pick up a little bit of momentum over the past week or so. But yeah, I'm definitely not mad, because I don't want to like toot my own horn too much really quickly, but I will just very quickly pull up just to add some credibility, because there's some of you guys on here that might not even know that I have a MyFX book. So the link is in the description if you want to go and investigate a little bit more. But I have a MyFX book. You can see all the details and all the stuff on here. But you'll see that for this month, I don't even know if it shows the trade, the percentage. No, it's not showing the percentage, but you can actually see it here. You can see March 8th, we were at 23.19%, which is basically where this was the last time I took a trade. So you can actually see it's been a while since I took a trade. And then boom, March 22nd, which was last week when I took this trade, it went up from 23.19% to 32.27%, which is where we're at right now. So really significant jump in one gain. And actually, if you look at this MyFX book, this one's been reporting since June 18th, 2018, you'll see that it's the largest gain on an individual trade. I had a couple very close to it. You can see back in November, late November, early December last year. So about 3 months ago, I had one where on that trade, I went from 14.23% to 20.98%, so almost 7%. This one back in October, where we went from like 9.7 to 16.6%, but nothing like this one. So yeah, just overall, just really nice, guys. So those of you guys that don't know, I keep track of everything. Okay, everything. These are all the signals that are given out, so you can see, there's definitely been a combination of trades. We've had some break-even trades. We've had some nice winning trades. We've had some losing trades. We were at kind of a break-even point for a while there, and then now we've really made some new higher highs. So my goal going into this year, for those of you guys that remember what my goals were, one of my goals, my main goal, which is returns for this year, is with 40%. 40% in this year, 42% actually, which is 3.5% a year. Okay, and all of these returns, by the way, these might not look a lot like a lot to some of you guys, but these returns are based on either 1% or 2% risk per trade. So I'm not going out and risking like a large percentage of my accounts. This is very, very minimal risk, and I'm trading on large accounts, 6-figure, 7-figure accounts. So this might not look like big gains, but this is big gains when you're working with some big money. So Yeah, that's that. And guys, just a little one update to. Oh, actually, let's go ahead and see if there's any chat up in here, and then I'll go ahead and say a couple things. Denford says, how much subscription to be a student, yearly or monthly? So that's actually something that I was just going to bring up. I enjoy the weekly outlooks, lots of good value. Thank you, Marta. Did I go over gold yet? Christian, I have not gone over gold. For gold, I really don't have a strong outlook on gold. Well, I'm bullish on the dollar and I'm bearish on Euro USD, so it's possible we could see some downside on gold. But even with the downside that we saw in Euro USD that we're seeing, we aren't really seeing a lot of downside on. Oh, sorry guys. Tried to cover the mic there. Don't mean to sneeze in your guys' ears. But what I was gonna say is that even with the that we're seeing downside on Euro USD, we aren't seeing a lot of downside on gold. So I don't really have. I'm just neutral on gold right now. I don't have a lot of gold or a lot of interest on gold. So let's take a look at gold and oil, USD CAD. Yep, we looked at all of those. Would it, because it's a safe haven, the Japanese strength. Yep. Christian says, David, I'm looking at possible downside to gold. Would love to see you look at that quickly. Yeah. So Christian, I don't mean to not give you my best opinion, but it would make sense. I mean, from a purely technical standpoint, we are in this like ascending channel that we're in right now, and it looks like gold should break the support. I mean, this is just very, very simple, right? We see this all the time. Like, where is something that we recently saw this happen with? I remember there was a pair we recently saw this happen with. I mean, Euro USD is a great example, right? I mean, you can even see it here, I think on the 4 hour. Yeah, the 4 hour. I mean, obviously it had this manipulation to the upside, but you can see it had this pullback, this correction, and then continued its phase lower. So I would expect gold to continue lower. But yeah, I mean, it would make sense for gold to move up, to move down lower as the dollar moves up. I already told you guys that my bias is gold strength. Okay, but guys, I have had a lot of people messaging me. This is just a little quick update. So you guys know that back in December, I shut down Positive Trader, accepting new students to Positive Traders. So for the past 3 months, Positive Traders has just been closed. It's only just been the students that have been in and been lifetime students, whether you've been with me for a couple months or a couple of years. Some of you guys have been with me since 2016 when I started Positive Traders. I have decided to just kind of like switch the way I do things and not have it like open and accessible all the time, just to limit the amount, just to really keep the quality of students that I have. But I'm going to be announcing this a little bit later in Telegram, but I'm going to be allowing 5 people to come in, and then I'm going to close it down again for probably a couple months again, probably like every 3-4 months or so, reopen it. So I'm going to be opening it up for 5 people to hop in, and that's going to give you lifetime access. So that's going to give you access to be a lifetime member. So that's going to give you access to my trade alerts, my daily webinars, my course. But yeah, my daily webinars are where the biggest value is. Obviously, my alerts too, because I just tell you exactly where to buy and sell, that type of thing. But yeah, I'm gonna put announcement in Telegram and on social media. But you guys are the first to hear, because those of you guys that are here, you guys are dedicated. But it's gonna be just literally the first 5 people, so it's not gonna be any people more, nobody less. But first 5 people. I'm probably gonna go in like the next 24 or 48 hours or so. Then I'll close again for the next like 3 to 4 months, just like I did back at the beginning of December. But message me if you want some more information on that, guys. If you want some more information on becoming a student, okay? Outcome Bias says, what sessions do you trade again, Tokyo or Sydney? I don't really limit myself to a single session or a specific session. I definitely like to capitalize during, like, for example, the bulk of my trade when it hit take profit last week happened during the London session on my Euro Yen trade. So I definitely know that the markets move a lot more during the London and New York session. However, I'm more of a price action trader, and I also definitely react to fundamentally backed technical trades. So more just when I see the right price action in the market or the charts rather than a specific session. Okay, so I don't consider myself a specific type of session trader. All right, guys. But do me a huge favor. Guys. If you've made it to this point in the video, if you've got a bunch of value, if you know the trades, if you're looking at Euro USD, AUD USD, any of those yen pairs that we looked at, maybe even USD CAD for a potential buy, go ahead and leave a like on this video. Leave a comment on the after the replay, or if you're watching the replay, leave a comment if you got some value. Nick said how much to join. Nick, shoot me a message and I'll go ahead and I'll give you all the details for that. Okay. But yeah, I hope you guys have a safe trading week. Please, guys, please remember it's been very volatile lately. Remember, there's a lot of volatility. Keep in mind the New Zealand dollar. Once again, keep in mind that this is going to be a pretty volatile week. Remember, we've got the New Zealand dollar interest rate decision this week. We've got another Brexit vote at the end of this week. And then we've got, some GDP coming out for the U.S. dollar. Lots of other high-impact news as well. So expect volatility, guys. Markets have been pretty volatile the past couple of weeks here, and I don't expect it to slow down anytime soon. So you don't want to get caught with your pants down. You want to make sure that you're trading. You want to make sure you're trading with good risk management, guys. Okay, because those big wins will come. Okay, just like this big win for me came last week. Right, I've been very, very patient this year, but now I have a huge win to celebrate over, and we're only 3 months into the year. So, all right, guys, I'll catch you guys on next week's weekly outlook. If you're a student, I'll see you on tomorrow's daily webinar. Other than that, guys, have a safe trading week, and I'll see you guys all next time. Take care, guys.